Hello, it's Wednesday and it's time for Pop and Politics. We are talking about the latest in hot topics, news, and entertainment. I'm KJ, and let me introduce you to my co hosts. Tonight we have, Shelly E. and Yana are on vacation this week, so they are out. But we have back tonight Colleen. She is back from bright and shiny Florida. She's now a Floridian. So we'll talk about that a little bit more later. Then also joining us tonight, we have Commissioner again, Autumn Simmons. Thank you so much for joining us back tonight. We also have the founder of Unmask the Kids, EJ Tron, with us tonight. And we have bilingual education advocate, Blanca Tapajasco. How is everyone doing tonight?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm doing great. It's always like a hustle, like everything's so fast. So I'm just trying to kind of slow down a little bit. But glad to see you guys. Glad to have you here tonight. Again, we have a packed house tonight, and it is needed because we have a full show of hot topics to discuss. So before we get into that, got to do some housekeeping. Again, join the conversation by leaving a comment on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. We will check the comments periodically throughout the show. And don't just comment, subscribe. Subscribe to our social media so you always know when we post new content. Also, if you like independent media and want to support what we do here at Metro Conservative Media, donate. Any amount is appreciated. Check us out on our website at www.metroconservativemedia.com for up-to-date information. Again, as I always say, you guys should know by now, we are a necessary voice in news and entertainment. All right, ladies, let's set it off. We are going to get right into it. So we are starting off tonight with breaking news from the White House. President Biden announced today via executive order historic new steps to address student loan debt, which includes forgiving or canceling $10,000 in federal student debt for individuals making under $125,000 annually and households making under $250,000 annually as well. Also relieving $20,000 in debt for Pell Grant recipients and extending the payment freeze one final time until the end of the year. So he made some remarks about it today. He said education is a ticket to a better life, but over time that ticket has become too expensive for too many Americans. Biden said during a speech from the White House. He also says, and I quote, all this means that an entire generation is now saddled with unsustainable debt in exchange for an attempt at least at college and at least at a college degree. The burden is so heavy that even if you graduate, you may not have access to the middle class life that the college degree once provided. The decision is already disappointing many, with those on the left arguing that the president should have provided even more loan forgiveness, and those on the right asserting that Biden is punishing Americans who avoided going into debt. So I want to give this to you, ladies. So before we get into the nuts and bolts of this move, I want the answer to one question. Just need you to say yes or no. If you had a student loan and qualified for this cancellation, would you take it? I want to start with you, Blanca. Yes or no? Would you take it?
No.
All right. EJ.
This is a hard one for me. I would probably say yes.
Okay. What about you, Colleen?
See, now if you're going to ask me if I'm going to take it, if it's free, obviously I'm going to take it, yes.
Okay. And then you, Autumn, would you take it if you qualified and they gave it to you or offered it? Oh, would you take it, Autumn?
Oh, I said yes.
Oh, I didn't hear you. Okay. Okay.
That's why.
Okay. All right. So want to get into it. I want to start with you, Blanca. You said no. Can you talk? So obviously you disagree with this executive order. Can you talk about why you think it's a bad idea?
Yes, there's two reasons. One, because I was able to pay off my own student loan, and I did that in 28 months. It was $22,000. That's the first reason, because I was able to do it on a salary of $29,000 a year. Second is how the impact for those who are getting relief, in quotes, or is this a transferable debt to others, and what the tax impact is going to be when they file. That's the second reason.
All right. What about you, EJ? Now I know you said that if you qualified and it was offered to you, you would accept it. But do you agree with this idea of the student loan forgiveness? Why or why not?
I'm gonna play a devil advocate here. You know, I pay my student debt. If I was told today that it was going to be forgiven, of course I would take it because I'm just an average American, right? But with the current climate of this country, I feel like this issue kind of designed to divide us. You know, you have the people who paid their debts already and getting upset at the ones that not going to have to pay for it. But we have to ask ourselves, what is the package relief for this? How much? Because we just sent what, 10.6 billion to Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But now we're fighting over this. But for me, you know, if it's free and it's like tens of $1,000s forgiven for me, I would take it. And I understand that yes, we will have the inflation and we will have to pay it back, just like a stimulus checks. So, but this issue to me is just being blown out of in the media right now because it's trendy, and it's to me, and also partly for a political reason, you know, to buy votes, possibly having government control college, who knows. But yeah, I probably would take it just because I know that there's not much we can do about it.
All right. What about you, Colleen? What are your thoughts on this? Now, you also said you would take it if you qualified. Do you think this is a good idea?
It's not a good idea, but I would take it because why would I want to pay $10,000 if the government's just going to take it off and they're going to do it regardless? Honestly, them relieving my debt with everybody else's isn't going to, it's like me turning it down. I don't really think that's going to help curb inflation too much, but I don't agree with it whatsoever. I mean, honestly, if we were going to talk about forgiving any kind of debt, we should be talking about other types of debt, like, you know, credit card debt for buying groceries or gas or things like that, not for schooling, especially. I mean, if you look at the income for these people that are going to be qualifying for it and stuff, I mean, these are really high incomes. These are high earning individuals. I mean, the average American doesn't make these types of incomes that are going to be qualifying for this. So yeah, of course I would take it if I qualified for it because there's nothing I can do anyways. But I don't agree with it whatsoever. It shouldn't be done, should be illegal. I really think people should be fighting for it. He's essentially buying votes. So I don't know. I don't know how it's legal.
All right. And you, Autumn, I know you said that if you qualified, you would, and they offered it, you would accept it. But do you feel like this is a good initiative or for President Biden or for the country? Okay.
No, I didn't feel it's not a good idea at all. It's just adding to our debt, our national debt that we have. I don't agree with it at all. However, just like EJ and Colleen has said, it's happening anyways. So if someone offers it, why not? I don't like mine is under what I owe is way less than 10 grand. I don't owe that much actually. So mine isn't really to do much as far as curbing it anyway. But when he decided to run, that was something that everyone was talking about, and that is something people voted for him because they did want their student loan forgiveness. So I feel it is his job to meet what he said he would do. So this is right as far as him as president, what he ran on campaign to allow people to think and believe. Rightfully so, it is him doing that. But do I agree with it? No, not at all. I didn't when he was running.
All right, I want you guys to take a look at this clip here. This is clip number 1, and then we will get your response.
Many of you had to leave school because the financial strain was much too high. About a third of the borrowers have debt but no degree, and worst of both worlds, debt and no degree. The burden is especially heavy on Black and Hispanic borrowers, who on average have less family wealth to pay for it. They don't own their homes to borrow against to be able to pay for college.
So this is something that Biden does. And I'm not sure if you guys caught this. It's almost like Black and Hispanics need help, need the Democrats' help. He did it in 2021 also when he's talking about the COVID pandemic. He was at a town hall and insinuated that Blacks and Hispanics may also have been left behind in vaccination drive as they do not know how to use the internet. I quote him, he says, "Not everybody in the community, in the Hispanic and the African American community, particularly in rural areas that are distant and or inner city districts, know how to get online to determine how to get in line for that COVID vaccination at the Walgreens or the particular store." So want to get your thoughts on this, Blanca? This idea that Hispanics and Black people, we got to have Daddy Biden, Grandpa Biden's help. We don't have computers. We can't get online. We don't know how to get online. We don't own homes. We need old Master Biden to help us get through these hard times. What are your thoughts on that narrative?
As a Hispanic? Well, first of all, I know Biden's rhetoric is it's like that squeaky wheel that you're just like, I got to hear it. It'll be painful, but I got to hear it. That's how I see him. He's like that piece of rust that you just hear it and hear it and hear it. And you just gotta. So for me, he's saying the same thing. He's been saying this for a long time. Okay. I've been keeping up with politics since 1992. He was in office since then. And what I say to him is he doesn't know the population. I can't speak for EJ, and he's tried to speak for me and he can't. And so you have to I can't ignore it. You just have to really combat it with the facts. The facts is that my husband and I paid off our home last February of 2021. It was a 20-year mortgage. So we do own our home. Mm-hmm. The facts are that for me to blanket and say nobody or everybody, and that's what he's been doing. So I find it that, he's not a leader. He's not a leader. To me, he's a resident, just like me and just like you and I. And he just unfortunately has too much power to really relate to anyone that really lives in the real world like you and I.
Mm-hmm. I want to get your thoughts on that, on that Autumn. His insinuation that Blacks and Hispanics, and not just him, but the Democrat Party in general, we need help. We are like the babies, and we need their help. They have to help us get up. They have to help us get by. What are your thoughts on that? Do you see that? Do you think that is a narrative that they try to push? And then what are your thoughts?
It's a narrative that they try to push. They've been pushing that for decades. I would say, as simple as this, I'm a Black woman. I'm actually Afro-Latina. My mom's Dominican. But anyways, I'm a Black woman. That's what you see when you see me, right? So that's what most people assume. So we'll go with that. I'm a Black woman. I have a Black husband. I have 2 beautiful Black daughters, right? We got our house when I was 26 years old. We've been living ever since. My husband supports us financially. It's all bearing on him. Now I'm a politician, so some of that's coming in with me. We don't make much as politicians, but it's a little something, gas money, you could say, especially with our current situation. But anyways, we own our home, and a thought never occurred to us to use a refinance in order to fund school for myself, to pay back our loans, or for my children either. Really, we thought about starting a business. Again, we don't need the assistance. Mm-hmm. simple. That is the simple answer. I am a stay-at-home mom. It's one person that's making sure everything's okay. We have cars that we need, transportation, home, everything. So again, this Black family is just fine.
All right. And I want to go back to something EJ said. So she did, and that was actually a good point you made, EJ, how they we do see this push for people to go against each other. So my question is, should people who didn't go to college or people who went and paid for college themselves be bitter and resentful about a plan that helps someone else who's struggling and catch a break? I want to ask you this, Colleen. What are your thoughts there? Because we are seeing this war or this kind of resentment between the two factions.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's always that question, like, what about people who actually paid? So I mean, and that's a lot of people. I mean, how long have people been getting loans for college? I mean, this goes back for a long time. I mean, and if we're going to be fair, which they're all about being fair, aren't they? It's like it's not fair. Are we going to pay back everybody? I think what would have been fair for, if we're talking about the student loan thing again, I would definitely say that fairness would be getting rid of the interest, because that's basically a penalty essentially for going to school, is like interest, paying extra money for it. You shouldn't have to be penalized for it. You should pay what you paid for the school, and that's it. So, I mean, I would be for that. That I can get with. If they, I mean, but then again, then you also have the problem of what about everybody who paid off? So, I mean, honestly, the best bet he could have done, and the fairest thing he could have done, is to not give anybody free money.
Yeah, and free money. Let's look at that. I mean, the cost. So Harvard's Lawrence Summers, who served as President Clinton's Treasury Secretary and President Obama's top economic advisor, wrote on Twitter on Monday, every dollar spent on student loan relief is a dollar that could have gone to support those who don't get the opportunity to go to college. Student loan debt relief is spending that raises demand and increases inflation. It consumes resources that could be better used helping those who did not, for whatever reason, have a chance to attend college. It will also tend to be inflationary by raising tuitions. I want to open this up to you guys. What's your thoughts on this?
Well, I have something to say about that. She's saying that every dollar that's spent is one that can be used for people who wouldn't otherwise be able to attend college. That doesn't make sense. The people who are borrowing money are the people who otherwise wouldn't be able to attend college.
Well, I think they're actually against the student loan relief. I think that this response is to say that to forgive this is going to cause inflation and is going to be detrimental. It's not fair to people who didn't take out the college. That's what I've read. How I read it. Let me see here.
Okay.
Every dollar spent
I don't know. That's a different way of saying it. That's a very different way of saying. You see what I mean, though?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Money that is being borrowed is the money that people who otherwise wouldn't be able to go need. So I don't know. Maybe she was trying to say it in the best way, but it didn't come across. That doesn't make sense to me at all.
I mean, I'm really kind of worried about how this is going to affect our day-to-day lives here in the next few months. Like, I knew that Biden was going to royally screw this place up till 2024. And that's why I moved to Florida. And I moved here. And then I got news that he just forgave student loan debt. And I was like, there he goes again. So, I mean, that's literally why I'm here, because I knew that I had to ride it out somewhere, because, I mean, our groceries might go up a lot from this for all we know. We don't know, but we're going to find out in the next few months. And we have to deal with him until January 2025. And depending how safe our next election is, maybe beyond that, because I mean, he's so popular, he might win again somehow and people will still believe it. So
all the time, come to Tennessee instead. I mean, Florida's
Tennessee, Texas, or Florida are the safest places you could probably be. And a few other red states, of course, but like in terms of like jobs and stuff, like those are like the three powerhouses right now.
Tennessee economic, I would say as far as jobs, but as far as opening up a business, economically, Tennessee is it. Everyone's coming here because it's like a underlying. People just know, people are hearing about it. It's
Yeah,
not really
we're all worried. We're all worried how we're going to fare these next few years. I mean, this is everything is constantly up in the air with this guy. I mean, Biden is literally like a child running the greatest nation that ever existed. China's falling apart. Their real estate market is like crumbling. And it's like Biden's like, let's just forgive student loan debt. It's like, with what money, dude? With what money? And then give money to Ukraine? Like, it's going to get so bad. It's going to get very bad.
I think we need our state representatives. They need to start looking at federal, just because with Tennessee, especially with our governor, we don't have state income tax, but we also don't have debt when it comes to our infrastructure. We make sure that the money is already there first before we do anything. They won't do anything unless they know exactly where that money is going to come from, how it's going to be paid, they make sure everything's squared away with.
Well, that's how a lot of people, that's how we were told we should be raised. That's how we were told we should conduct and manage our households. You don't spend what you don't have. But we've gotten into this era of spend, and kick the can down the road and see if the next generation can pay for it. Mm-hmm. And it's become dangerous. Actually, now it's become dangerous. We owe so much to China. We owe so much to these other nations. Look at what we have now. Our military is under financed. I mean, it's really causing a lot of issues, and this I don't think will help it either. But we do have to move on to our next topic. I want to go to some of the comments here. So we have here Chad says places that guns are acceptable. That's the place to be. Yeah, we're going to talk about that a little later too. But again, join the conversation by leaving a comment on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. We will check the comments periodically throughout the show. Also, subscribe to our social media so you always know when we post new content. Check us out on our website at www.metroconservativemedia.com for up-to-date information. We are a necessary voice in news and entertainment. All right, moving right along to our pop-off round. So this is a time for each co-host to pop off on a trending topic. I'll provide you a question, and in 30 seconds or less, you can give an answer. All right, so we are starting out tonight with Autumn. All right, so a Wisconsin school board voted recently in favor of a policy banning gay pride flags and Black Lives Matter flags from classrooms due to what school leaders say is political messaging. Teachers and administration will not have political flags or religious messaging in their classroom or on their person. That was what the superintendent, Stephen Plum, said ahead of the vote. The Kettle Moraine School Board voted last Tuesday in favor of keeping a code of conduct in place that the school superintendent had interpreted as banning teachers from displaying political and religious messages in the classrooms. So some of these, again, were BLM flags, We Back the Badge, and all types of gay pride flags. So none of this is allowed. What are your thoughts on this rule or this new initiative? Do you agree or disagree, and why?
I agree. I think that teachers, they shouldn't display how they feel when it comes to political biases or just anything. It should be kept at home. Our parents, they'll most likely, I think that's across the board. Every household, they're talking to their kids about that, which is age appropriate, if it is age appropriate. And yes, I 100% agree. That's good for them. Absolutely.
All right. Mm-hmm. Moving right along to you, Blanca. A jury has found Baltimore City Schools discriminated against former principal Angel Lewis, who sued the school system for wrongful termination. Lewis was hired as principal at Claremont Middle High School in East Baltimore in 2016. She claimed in her lawsuit that North Avenue terminated her after she began reporting what she found at the school, including cheating on the statewide assessment, Students were graduating even though they were not eligible to graduate, and teachers were not qualified to teach. We have a massive teacher shortage in Baltimore City and across the country. Falsified report cards, falsified attendance rolls. They're passing students with failing grades. I mean, the list goes on. And our tax dollars are paying for it all. So my question to you, Blanca, is who should be accountable for the dereliction of duty by Baltimore City public education system?
The person who should be held accountable is Dr. Santelises, who is the CEO of Baltimore City Public Schools, who got a raise back in May for now she's earning over $370,000 a year. That's who should be held accountable. I'm very familiar with this case, and I will say that Ms. Angela Lewis also found that deceased students were also on the roster of the school. And so this is a failure from the top. You know, Colleen mentioned about the popularity of President Biden. It falls at the top. It falls at the top. And no matter how popular, no matter how much that they earn in the hundreds of thousands, it's at the top. And so Dr. Santelises should have already been gone, but she's a popular, well-paid, well-padded, and well-supported, while the students do not read and write.
All right. Moving right along here to EJ. So lawmakers in Sacramento are pushing to expand eligibility for a state-issued ID card to all Californians, regardless of immigration status. It's AB 1766, also known as California ID for All, has already passed the state state assembly, and is now heading to the Senate for a vote in the next coming days. If passed, California would be the first state in the country to offer state ID to undocumented immigrants. This legislation builds on California's laws passed almost a decade ago that grants a driver's license to undocumented immigrants, providing access to state-issued identification to everybody. So my question to you is, do you believe this is something that should pass and also pass in other parts of the country? The legislation would cover an estimated 1.7 million undocumented people living in California who don't have access to a driver's license. What are your thoughts? Oh, you're muted. Oh, 1 sec. Oh, we can't hear you, EJ. Did you mute yourself? Or is it me? Can you hear me? Can you guys hear EJ? Oh, it's me.
I can't hear her.
Oh, okay. I don't know. You're not muted. Let me see. We'll go to Colleen and come back to you. All right, Colleen, a viral shot of Dr. Anthony Fauci in a nearly 2-hour-long National Geographic documentary hosted on Disney Plus shows the doctor working in his home office alongside a large portrait of himself. Also notable in the documentary, Fauci says people who view him as a bad guy only do so because he represents the truth, something his critics are uncomfortable with. The documentary, appropriately titled Fauci, is framed as a look into Fauci's life, who's held public office during a host of pandemics. My question to you, Colleen, is this guy an egomaniac, or is he rightly confident?
Oh my gosh, this guy is not only a narcissist, egomaniac, but he is a criminal. He should be in prison. And I am really excited I hope the red wave is still coming. But if the red wave comes, I hope Dr. Fauci is pulled and he is brought in front of whoever he needs to be talking to go to see a prison cell, honestly. And I mean, you know what? I shouldn't get too excited because it's probably never going to happen. But Dr. Fauci should be in prison. And I mean, that picture on the wall is so fitting, so perfect for him. It fits him.
Yeah, yeah, I actually have to say something about that. That is crazy. I mean, if you're gonna do that, do it in your bedroom. Put it in your bedroom. But to have a huge portrait of yourself like that, this guy, just to hear him talk makes me sick. I'm so happy he's retiring.
I wonder if I wonder if that was like fan art or if he paid for that, you know?
He probably paid for it. Probably sat for it. Oh gosh. Okay. DJ, you're back. Can we hear
Can
you
you hear
now?
me now?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
All right. So last question. So I don't know. Did you hear the question? Basically, it's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So I was saying that if they all get IDs, do they get other benefits from having the IDs? Will they be able to vote? And it also, is this the way that the government can keep track of everybody? Because you know that, if we're not there already, we're going to get to the era where we all going to be track and trace. So it could be for that reason. So there's a lot of factors into if I'm agreeing with this or not. I'm not a big fan of the government, so I don't want to be, track and trace everywhere I go. But at the same time, we have such a influx of immigrants coming into this country. This year alone, they have encountered over 2 millions already, beat the record of last year of 1.9 millions. So if we have so many illegal immigrants and we can't keep track of them, then we are set for chaos. People not paying tax, people not paying in their dues, while we, the American, the working people, who's always, follows the laws and on papers, are paying for all these debts through the inflations and stuff like that. So it is a touchy subject for me. I'm not sure if I agree with it or disagree with it. I have to weigh out the pros and the cons.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, that was our pop off round. So again, join the conversation by leaving a comment on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. We will check the comments periodically throughout the show. And do you have a question that you'd like to hear answered by one of the co-hosts? Email me, KJ at metroconservativemedia.com. We will ask the co-host your question during our next pop-off. All right, so we are moving right along to our second topic of the night. Still kind of in education, but we're talking about guns. So, a Western North Carolina school district plans to arm school resource officers with AR-15s for the coming school year. Officials in Madison County, about 20 miles northwest of Asheville, say all 6 county schools will be equipped with an AR-15. The weapons will be at the disposal of school resource officers in case of an active shooter situation. Madison County Sheriff Buddy Harwood said, "We've seen sometimes that a deputy armed with a handgun is not enough to stop these animals." So he said that they're funding the weapons by donated members of the community. The school resource officers in Madison County will receive numerous hours of additional training with the AR-15. This is also happening in Florida as well. So those are 2 states that I know are doing this. So my question is this a good idea or a bad idea? Why or why not? I'm going to start with you on this, Blanca, because you're a mom and an education advocate. What are your thoughts? Is this good or bad?
I will say it depends where. I would say it depends where these issues are taking place in regards to safety. In Baltimore, compared to North Carolina, we're talking about 2 different, very, very different. It's like saying, I don't know what part of area Colleen lives in Florida, but Miami, Tallahassee, those are 2 different areas. So I would say it depends where we are directly speaking about, where this issue of violence is occurring.
All right, and let me ask you, if I could, what do you mean? What makes it the difference between these two areas? I know you're talking about rural versus city, but what about that you think would be the determining factor in your decision on this?
Where the determining factor would be how people are trained to actually. I'm more of a preventative measure. Take the preventative first. And I'm not saying teach the children about what could happen. No, I'm talking about the adults, how they can be properly trained, and vetted, and be prepared, and then introducing it into maybe even some community outreaches of community input. This is a very topic for me. I want to also say that AR, just to dispel any myth, it doesn't mean assault rifle. It's Armalite, which is a company in California that began in the 1950s, and they just happen to be called Armalite. But people automatically, oh no, assault weapon. Well, and I also know that there's a lot of weapons already in school. I know that for a fact. And so to add not more weapons, but to not be prepared on how that could be, it's a very difficult topic for me, because how that could turn into, now the kids know that somebody else is armed. A child who is going to commit a crime, an adult who's going to commit a crime, they're going to do it to anybody. I'm really more concerned about just the chaotic mess that is in schools. And there's already a streak of violence in the school system. That's
right.
what my concern is. Mm-hmm.
I want to go to you, Colleen, because you have an interesting perspective, because you don't have any children right now currently. What are the optics? And that's something Blanca kind of spoke about. What do you believe the optics would be when seeing something like this occur? Seeing these resource officers with the AR-15s on school grounds.
Yeah, so since I don't have kids, it would be, just from an outsider's perspective, it definitely looks scary to have big guns in schools like that and stuff. And since I'm more of a walk away, so just up until 2 years ago, I would have considered myself a Democrat or left leaning. So 2 years ago, this would have scared the crap out of me. I'd be like, oh my gosh, we don't need these big guns around in these schools. Fast forward 2 years later, I now live in Florida, where they literally have the sheriff's department has a tweet every night that reminds everybody, lock your guns up, take them out of your car. So it's a totally different vibe down here. And it's just a totally different gun culture. So it's more normalized in Florida. So it's not going to be as taboo down here. And I'm in the Jacksonville area. So I mean, we get some shootings in town too. I'll tell you that. But the difference is they'll actually lock you up and probably throw away the key down here. In Maryland and Maryland Mosby will just be like, oh, you poor thing, go ahead and shoot somebody else tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So that's the difference. But in the gun culture down here is just so different that it probably doesn't faze so many parents, and they probably do feel better about it. But me, who has more liberal background, it does worry me a little bit, but I'm definitely not coming down here and saying, no, I don't think we should have ARs in the schools. They'll be like, girl, go back to Maryland, get out of here. We don't need you. So.
All right. What's your perspective on this, Autumn? Do you think it's a good idea to arm resource officers with AR-15s at the schools?
I was looking at that where he said meet violence with violence. I'm not a sheriff. So, I mean, I feel like they're going to have an expert opinion on this, to be honest. But I do feel, especially with our SROs, all of them are law enforcement, every last one of them. I believe that's everywhere in every state. I know absolutely here, they're all law enforcement. And with that said, they're already trained to handle guns of all sorts, I'm assuming. Again, I'm not a part of the law enforcement, so I don't know if they're trained to handle them all, but I can only assume they are trained to handle guns, and they take that very seriously. And if their sheriff feels that there's a need in North Carolina, wherever they are, then there must be some sort of need for that. There must be that much violence. There must be this much chaos. I would hope it's not just something where that individual is looking at what's happening on a national level, and then the emotions and the feelings towards that has led to that decision. It is a little different because he said he's using private sources in order to get the gun. So it's making me wonder what happened with him going to county commission and wanting that inside of the budget. What were their thoughts on that? Usually, I know in the state of Tennessee, you can have up to 24. So that's 24. You know, he had to, that's about 13 people that were needed to vote in favor of that budget. If it's something new that he's asking for, he probably would have brought that to them. So it just makes me question if there's truly a need, what the situation is. I think it just really depends on, it's case by case, I think, for decide that. I know here, Tennessee's very gun friendly anyways. I mean, it's no one's scared of an AR-15. You know, most people know how to use them. But I would say here, what we've done instead is we up the amount of SROs that we have that can respond. But I would think even if an individual came in, he had just, usually these cases you hear someone had just bought a gun and then they came in. So they're usually not even an expert. So regardless of what gun the other person has, you have someone that's going against them that's highly trained. So I would assume it doesn't matter that they would be able to handle whatever it is that if they need to take them out, they can take them out, in other words, with whatever they have. So I was thinking, I didn't think you needed to have just two of the same guns in order to beat the other person. I don't think that's.
What are your thoughts on that, EJ? Arming resource officers in schools with AR-15s. What are your thoughts? Oh, I think there you are. Oh, we can't hear you again. I don't know what's going on. Oh, okay. One thing she's going to come back. One thing I want to ask, because you guys brought up a good point about the idea of weaponizing educational premises. So some people, reformists, argue that stronger gun laws and not further weaponizing educational premises would be the most effective solution. Say the rise of school shootings across the country should concern us all, but arming school resource officers with AR-15s will only make our children less safe. Do you agree with that comment, Blanca?
Okay, I'm sorry, guys. I keep getting disconnected, but yeah, I'm going to answer this real quick. Apologize to the viewers.
No, go on.
I think it's a bit much. I do not think it's necessary. When I see an AR, we're not under martial law country here. You know, I see other countries with soldiers or police, carrying gun out in the open, and it's normal. But in America, I think that just a revolver or a pistol is enough. And we should talk more about how we can secure the premises of the schools, because I've seen students able to leave and come back with no problem. So that's a problem to me. Security at the front where anybody can just enter. My son goes to a private school, and you cannot get inside unless someone, unlock the door for you. So I do not think an AR is something necessary, and it's gonna make a difference. We know that war here, So yeah, I don't agree with that. I think a trained officer can just have a regular pistol and it will do the job.
Now you
Plus,
say
if we're talking about mass shooting, usually it's one guy, right? It may be two guys.
Well, wait a minute. I want to ask you this. I want to double back on something you said. We're not at war. So wouldn't people take issue with that comment when you look at the amount of kids that have died in these mass shootings within the last couple of years? I mean, you're talking about, in Uvalde, multiple kids killed, by that one single shooter. You talking about Parkland or where there? I think that was one of the largest mass shootings of school. Aren't we at war? I mean, don't we want something like an AR-15 on these schools? These are being handled by people who are skilled to handle them. You see a big gun, it may be a deterrent from someone who's saying, you know what, I don't know if I want to do something here because they got these AR-15s, and I'm not. The probability of me getting through this is very unlikely. What are your thoughts on that? We are at war. I think we're at war because these people are at war
well,
with our.
we are in ways at war, but when I was talking about war regarding guns, I'm talking about like full-blown war with bombs and shooting, everyday type war. We are at war psychologically and spiritually, and there are always going to be casualties in every war. But as far as the current state that we're in right now, like I said, I don't see the needs for officers at the school to carry the AR-15. If we have, if we have people that well trained, if we have, securities that make sure that people can just enter and exit any time, a pistol can just, like if a guy come in and you have a trained shooter or trained officer with a pistol, he can get the guy. We not, we not like.
I mean,
We
honestly,
have a comment here. So Tyrone Keys, he says, if one thinks a revolver is a match for an AR in a gunfight, they really need more education on weapons, respectfully. He also says, tell EJ to study the LA. He says, tell EJ to study the LA shooting where two guys with ARs held off half the LAPD. So I guess he's advocating for the AR-15s at the schools. Steven says Uvalde police had all the guns they needed. They still failed to act.
Yeah,
well, that could be training.
I mean, they failed to act probably because they failed the protocols. What if we have, like good safety protocols that could prevent someone from coming in and start shooting?
Well, I also want to.
It's not just better guns. It's going to solve the problem.
Right. I would take it a step further.
I mean, if you can have the best guns there are, but if the guy able to come in and start blasting everybody, and you have officers that not well trained and afraid to come in, then there's no good.
I would take it a step further. What happened to
the last shooting was officers was outside for however long, they were not told to come in time, and people was getting killed.
I want to get you in, Colleen. What were you saying here?
I would take it a step further. If somebody is going to be holding an AR-15 in the school, they have to be like a former combat veteran, because I don't want a beta male holding the AR-15. So whoever's like, I want somebody who's actually going to use it. I want somebody who's actually going to not pull whatever the officers did in Uvalde. I want somebody who actually has seen combat, somebody who's actually like, if we're really going to have somebody with an AR-15, like, I don't want some, average 2-year dude on the job holding it. I want somebody who's actually ready to die for these children in the building. So,
and
AR-15s is a rifle, and I believe it's the number one rifle in the United States. It's also used a lot in hunting. So I don't know if you have to be special ops or specially trained to use one.
You certainly don't need to be, but I think we can, some could argue this, I'll argue this, that if that maybe not everybody's a hero. Not everybody was meant to be a cop, and some people are unfortunately cops that shouldn't be cops. And I think that Uvalde showed a lot of that, or maybe there was something higher up, somebody that we didn't know told them not to go in or whatever. But it seems like a lot of those cops should not have been cops, in my personal opinion. So if somebody's going to be tasked with the very serious duty of literally putting your life on the line for all the children in the building, let's make sure it's not a beta male doing it.
But we have to ask ourselves this. If our schools need AR-15, what does that say about our country?
It says a lot. It says the people who are in charge have messed up priorities so much that they act like mental health isn't an issue. So we have to literally go along with this false reality. We don't want to address that it's actually mental health that's causing these mass shootings. We all know that it's father absence. It's a lot of this crazy gender ideology that confuses kids. I mean, it's a list of things that a lot of us would probably agree on here. But we literally live in this alternate reality of the Biden regime where we have to pretend that it's guns that are killing people. It's not the craziness that they implement, it's guns. So we have to live in their reality now. It's unfortunate.
We have to respond to the time. Right now we're in this situation. I mean, this is happening. This is real. And yes, we definitely need more mental health awareness and mental health skills and people to assist in that area. But that's something that's in the long run. We need something to address this now. And to me, if you see resource officers at a school with AR-15s, a perpetrator or a nut, I don't care how crazy he is going to be a little less likely to try something at that school. And if he does, he should get the wrath of these. It shouldn't be as much carnage as we've seen in these last couple of years at our schools. And if you think about it, they are late in the game. As EJ said, and I don't know if it's at your private school, but at my son's private school, they're armed. Now, they don't have AR-15s, but they are armed. The resource officers are armed. You clearly see it. Why aren't they arming these resource officers at public schools? You go to federal buildings, you go to DC, all the police officers, all of the security guards are armed. Now, you go to the mall at Louis Vuitton or Tory Burch, these stores, these high-end stores, they have armed guards. Why are they taking so long to arm every school in the United States? I don't understand that. We have to meet the times. You got a lot of nuts out here. It's only going to get crazier. I don't care how much mental health they have. It's only going to get crazier.
I don't think the root cause will ever be addressed while Biden's in office. I don't think the root cause of these mass shootings are ever going to be addressed, which, like I said, are probably things like mental health, father absence, and a mess of other things, but we won't address it. So this is what we have to do.
If you think about it, within the last 2 years, we've seen mental health outbreaks skyrocket. And a lot has to do with the pandemic and lockdowns and this crisis that we just got out of, or the kind of fabricated crisis. And now we're just waiting for the next one to come. I mean, this is the world we're in. Peacetime is gone. I don't care who's in the office. We're waiting and preparing for the next crisis, whether it's manufactured or not. So I just think we have to meet the time.
We rely, I believe that we rely way, way, way too heavily on, and I'm not just saying this because I am one, but we rely way too heavily on our politicians to just magically make everything how it should. It really is in the home. We can't just wait on Trump to come in office, DeSantis to come in office, me to come in office, just anybody to come in office to just, okay, they're going to address this and this is going to make everything appear. No, it's not going to be like that. We as parents, and when we have our children, but we as the people inside of the home make that change. So if each home was to make that change from within, take accountability for what we have going on with ourselves, our own mental health, address that, not have someone else tell us we need to go, just take ourselves there, whether it's inside of a church, synagogue, whatever, inside of a psyche, just wherever, to address those issues. It needs to be done, but it has to be with us. I'm not going to sit here and wait on another politician to tell me when I should address my own mental health or anyone else. or how I should parent my children. I'm going to do it myself. We all need to be doing that ourselves as parents, as adults, because we have children. Like even with me, I go to the mentorship programs and things like that and help with these children. Sometimes I'll go, if I know girls are going to be there, I'll go with braids in my hair on purpose. Do I usually wear braids? No, but I'll go there and wear braids because that's something that they connect with. I'm thinking about the kids and how they can start to see themselves, right? We have to not only start with our own family, but when we know that other people are at risk, we have children at risk, we need to go to them as well. That's something that we really have to do. It is up to us as adults. It is not up to our politicians, us that are actually in the community all the time.
We have a comment here. I want to take this before we move on. Rita Alsabrook. She says leftist teachers and the kids that have no home training, absent fathers, lack of mental health. That is the common sense base. I could go on all night with this. Removing God from schools and most communities. Yeah, definitely.
Study that proves that with removing God from schools, when they started to take the Bible out of schools, we saw a shift. Students started acting up. We saw more crime happening within the schools. It's a I have to find it, but there was a study on it I remember seeing. Yeah, it's very true.
Yeah.
It's very
Mm-hmm. Well, again, we will continue to follow this topic because we may see more jurisdictions, more states doing it. So again, join the conversation by leaving a comment on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. We will check the comments periodically throughout the show. And don't just comment, subscribe. As you guys I see you commenting. I hope you have subscribed. Subscribe to our social media on YouTube. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Check us out on our website at www.metroconservativemedia.com for up-to-date information. We are a necessary voice in news and entertainment. So we are moving on to the last topic of the night, immigration. So the number of migrant encounters at the southern border this fiscal year has now exceeded 2 million. Sources tell Fox News a number that marks a new record, as well as a glaring sign of the enormous and ongoing crisis facing agents, officials, and communities at the border. Customs and Border Protection announced Monday that there were 199,976 migrant encounters in July, taking the total so far this fiscal year to 1.9 million. CBP sources tell Fox that since then, that numbers have now surpassed the 2 million mark, a milestone not hit before at the border. So I could go on and on about these numbers. Before we really get into our border crisis, I want to really before we dive into this topic, we actually have at least two people on the panel I'm aware of that have immigrated here to the United States. So I want to start with you, EJ. How do you feel about illegal immigration? Just that topic specifically. How do you feel about illegal immigration, being an immigrant that has come to the U.S.?
Yeah, I came here legally, and when I went to college, I met a lot of friends who came from other countries. Some came legally, some came with a visa but got expired, so they became illegal. And they weren't bad people. And I'm not saying that, all immigrants coming in here are automatically criminals and, bad people. But when we have a system that we don't vet, who's coming in, then we automatically gonna have bad people infiltrating and crossing the border. The border thing, I'm an advocate for children. So I automatically, think of the children first when it comes down to any issues. And I have mentioned this many times that, yeah, we are the country, the number 3rd in the world destinations for human trafficking or child trafficking, right? So when we have all of these people coming through illegally, we're gonna have a lot of children being trafficked through as well. And then we're going to have a lot of drugs coming through. How can we stop that if we just allow anybody and everybody to come in? I believe that, there should be a vetting process, just like what I had to go through, regardless if you coming here legally or illegally. If you get captured, there should be vetted for your health and who you are. Because sometimes, with the current administration, if you come in through the border with a child and a child say, okay, that's my parent, and the parent say, okay, that's my child, they gonna release you into the America population within 72 hours.
Now, I want to, before you go into that, I want to get Blanca in on this. And so, because again, Blanca, you immigrated here as well. I want to ask you, however, specifically, how do you feel about the immigration process? So not illegal immigration per se, but the immigration process, because we do hear people who say becoming what's the name? Naturalized. Becoming naturalized or trying to become a citizen is a tough process. What are your thoughts on that process specifically?
It's definitely become an issue that many become political pawns from the system that is broken. This is a system that was broken. I came here, yes, as a individual who was adopted. So my parents adopted me. It was an international adoption. I was 10 years old. I didn't know immigration from illegal, legal, nothing. However, it has become where children, and EJ and I've met EJ, so I have respect for her, very, very high respect for her. And she is 100% for children, and so am I. And the reason for me, the reason that I say this as a person who came, is I hate that it has become children become political pawns instead of being rescued. They're actually being abused from where they came while they are passing through and even beyond here. It has disgusted me when I hear someone tell me one day in Spanish, America is just not working for me anymore. And I said, what happened? What happened? He said to me, I left everything. I left my wife. I left my kids. I left everything. I was told I was going to get a free house. I was going to get a job when I got here. I was going to get this. I was going to get that. And I said to him, who did you think would pay for this? Who? So he became I call them political pawns. So if you move, who does it take? Who's going to who's going to benefit from it? He felt like he didn't. And that's what disgusts me the most. The system is broken. And allowing anybody and everybody to come in, you're talking about letting the enemy come in, sleep with you, and possibly kill you. And then you're going to blame the enemy for you allowing him to do that? No. The system is completely broken.
All right. And so EJ and Blanca touched on a lot there. One of those things is how illegal immigration and these border crossings affect us here at home. Because, a lot of people think this is the border towns that are mostly affected, and they are in a great way. But actually, we are affected here at home in a great way because of illegal immigration and the open border policy of this Biden administration. I want to move to you, Colleen. Why should we care? Why should we care about open border policies? Because that's what we have pretty much now. Why should we care? Why should you care in Florida? Why should I care here in Maryland?
Well, I moved to Florida because they kept bringing illegals up to the DMV area. So I knew that I wasn't going to be safe there from that either. So Ron DeSantis obviously is very against illegal immigration here, and will, as soon as, if there's open reports about it, he does something about it. So, I was really upset living in Maryland at the fact that DC and Baltimore are like sanctuary cities. And the problem is we don't prosecute crimes up north. We don't prosecute crimes. So the second that I'm victimized by an illegal alien, guess what? They don't care. So I did not want to stick around and find out the hard way, because not everybody who comes here illegally is a criminal, of course. But I'm sorry, it's very sketchy to me that all these people who are coming over here, the majority of them, you'll be hard pressed to find women in that bunch. It's usually grown men with children. It's very hard to find women in that bunch. So they bring these children with them, say it's their child, and they say, oh, where's the mother? She stayed in Mexico. Why would the mother stay in Mexico? So I don't know. The Biden administration knows this is happening, and the reason they're doing it is because this is their new voter base. So they literally know that they're going to lose in 2024, no matter who they pick. They need a new voter base. So that's why with the story that we were talking about before with California, they're getting them IDs. That's just one step closer to voting. I mean, I see it. I feel like all of us see it. I feel like it's a pretty obvious plan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I want to ask you, Autumn, because how is this affecting us here? Now, one New York City Mayor Eric Adams, he's been all over the news recently talking about or slamming Texas for sending busloads of illegal aliens to the Big Apple, claiming that the city is struggling to handle the influx of these individuals. They've been really a stress on the social services. And so Governor Greg Abbott of Texas, he pushed back. He said, Abbott claimed New York City is the ideal destination for these migrants who can receive the abundance of city services and housing that Mayor Eric Adams has boasted about within the sanctuary city. I hope he follows through on his promise of welcoming migrants with open arms so that our overrun and overwhelmed border towns can find relief. What are your thoughts on that, on the idea of these border towns busing migrants to these cities who have called for pretty much open borders?
I don't think that we should just have what we call open borders at all. And I don't think we should be busing people to any state, even if they happen to have a current leader that feels like they should. I don't think that we should do that. It just encourages them to continue what we're doing, and it sends the wrong message everywhere. Some of our people here in Tennessee, they've gone down to the border. Our Senator Bill Happy, he's been, our sheriff here, actually, Montgomery County, he's been, and one of the things that he brought back and told us that drugs is trafficking, of course, is a major issue, and it's also drugs with fentanyl and the some of the other ones, but especially fentanyl that we're seeing come over high numbers. A lot of, drug overdose has gone up during COVID. It's been pretty rough with our borders being open. Just adds to all of it, makes it 10 times worse or 100 times worse. It's a huge problem. And I do feel like we should look into immigration reform when it comes to our laws we have. We'll call it communist, but Canada, if you look at their immigration laws, is very straightforward. It's very strict, which might surprise a lot of people, but it's extremely strict. Even as an American, we don't get special treatment to come to Canada and become a citizen. Not at all. In Canada, you need to either have a job set up and they're able to sponsor you and they say, yes, this person's coming. We think they're a great person and they're responsible. Or you through a what's called a fast express entry, which is within 6 months. You can have everything processed, everything done. They set you up with a lawyer or you can get one. And it's a very smooth process. They list all of the skills that they're looking for. So Canada is basically saying, if you have a skill, one of these that we have listed, especially if it's something in the tech industry, we'd love to have you within 6 months. But there's also a catch. You need to have 20 Canadian dollars. I think it's, what do you call it? 20 CAD, 20, I don't want to say dollars if it's not called dollars, but 20,000 of their, right? In order to come over, or they have, I believe it's a refugee. They do have something for refugees, but you still need to go through a particular process. You need to It needs to be a country where your life is at risk due to some governmental issues and things like that that are going on, and they're able to actually see that and confirm it. So it's extremely straightforward, and it's very strict. And I think that we should be looking at what they have set up. Why not look at what other countries have done? Because even I want to say it's Costa Rica. I think you need 100,000 in order to come there. There's other countries, maybe I think it's Denmark. You need to have a skill, but you also can have a business that you want to present to them. And if they feel like it's good enough, you can come there and become a citizen. So
That's a good point there, because we do need to, definitely update our immigration system. I want to go to some of these comments here because we do have a couple coming in. So Tyrone Keys, he says, "Oh yes, we should be busing to the states that advocate for this. They
I agree.
Out their money where their mouth is, or put their money where their mouth is."
Yeah, I do agree. I know, Autumn, like I get what you're saying by like it doesn't send a good message and stuff, but like seriously, New York needed to get a taste of the medicine. Like they needed to understand what's happening because it's overwhelming the border towns. I mean, they literally are going to go broke. So how else can we do it?
Yeah, there's that comment, people in the border town say we are all a border town because of the effects that we feel in the states from what is going on at the border. Many of you talked about the drugs. Authorities at the southern border seized approximately 1.6 million fentanyl pills and other lethal drugs concealed inside metal boxes hidden underneath the floor and various trap doors of an 18-wheeler trailer just a couple of weeks ago. They had massive amount of fentanyl pills and other narcotics like cocaine, heroin. They were all confiscated. They also seized 265,000 rainbow-colored fentanyl pills. I mean, these things were kind of looked like gummy bears. It looked like they were packaged for kids.
Yeah, can I tell you one of the biggest things that I've noticed driving around Jacksonville and stuff, as opposed to like the Baltimore area, is obviously there's an opioid epidemic pretty much everywhere in America, but it's probably worse in Baltimore. I have not seen an entire block of zombied out people since I moved here. I have not seen that. I mean,
you're in Jacksonville. I mean, it's generally in the cities.
Yes, I mean, I've gone around. It's not complete like Lexington Market and stuff like that. It's nothing like that. Like, I mean, obviously, of course, we have homelessness. Of course, we have the problems that any large city would have. But like when it really is night and day compared to Baltimore. I mean, the opioid epidemic has smashed Baltimore, and the border being open the way it is now, the drug of choice is fentanyl. I mean, it's cheaper and it's stronger. So the majority of the overdoses up in like the Baltimore area are probably from fentanyl at this point. It's at least 50-50 heroin and fentanyl, but it may be more fentanyl at this point. I mean, it's definitely ruined as north as Baltimore from just the border.
Yeah, and you, Blanca, as an education advocate, you're in the schools. Do you see these drugs and things affecting kids? How do you connect the dots, or do you connect the dots between schools and drugs and overdoses to the border?
I do. And also give the listeners and the panel some numbers. Let me give you two numbers: 1.72 billion. 1.6 billion. That first number I gave you is what it costs Maryland for the illegal immigration just in our state. 1.7 billion. 1.6 billion in comparison is the school budget for Baltimore City public schools, just for the public school system. So why do I bring up these numbers? Is because we are just like throwing money or taking money or free this, free that, come here, come there. Yes, this issue is at the heart of what is going to happen to what's been happening in public school. What I see in public school is parents telling me, not me taking a survey, parents telling me that when they wanted their child to receive a certain service, they had to basically get their kids medicated before they were heard. Before they were heard. Maybe it was a speech issue. Maybe it was not a behavior issue. It was an ability. As an educator, you have to look at the ability has to match what was done prior, what has been done consistently, not what you just threw, in the pan that morning and just call it a day. No, it's a lot of preparation, a lot of prevention, all of this. These are the topics. If we did a lot, like Ms. Simmons says, there's a lot that goes into in Tennessee. I hear more people moving to Tennessee and Florida. Why? Because they're safe there. Why? Because they are prepared there. Why? Because there's preventative measures and there's something that you actually look forward to getting. Here, you've got what you got and you got to settle. But I've heard from parents, until your child is medicated, then they won't give them an IEP. I'm one of them. That not as far as my children, none of them take medicine. But I'm one of them that I gave a written notice for an IEP evaluation to be done. We're going to observe first and see if he needs one. By law, they have to take that IEP request from the parent. What I see is just people are incompetent. They're ruining lives with the education. They're ruining lives of tricking people to come here. I like to know who paid for the Biden-Harris shirts when people were there taking when there was a flash mob with the shirts and ready to come in. Who paid for those shirts? And we are just we can't be fooled anymore. This is a war, and we have to use weapons to combat this. The zombied out, Colleen. Look, I can walk right now to Conklin Street. Conklin and Lombard, Pratt. And there's underwear just sitting there. Another lady down the street, you can tell, not because I'm assuming, you can tell that that's all she's going to do for the night to get this. The amount of homelessness. Why? Because we have the top is saying, not in my neighborhood. Yeah, of course not. Not in my neighborhood. I live in Severna, whatever. I live, nothing to do with Severna Park or nothing like that. But people don't live in reality. And then we suffer the incompetence of leadership. And that's what's happening.
Yeah, we are. Hopefully voters wake up. We all live in this situation. We see it. We breathe it. And hopefully people wake up. I mean, I think it was Autumn who said that, Biden with this loan forgiveness cancellation, he has actually fulfilled a promise to his electorate, to his base, his voters. He made the promise that he was going to do some type of loan forgiveness, student loan forgiveness, and he did it. This may push him up in the polls. Even though this whole thing is going to really cost us more than it's going to cost everybody now. It's going to cost, I think I read somewhere, Wharton Business School put out something that says it's going to cost taxpayers $2,500 each. So additional in taxes. So it's going to cost. We have to really start looking at these issues. The border, a lot of stuff sounds good. Let everybody come in. We're the United States. We're a rich nation, and we have so much to offer. Let people come in. But then what happens is chaos. Everything has to be done in decency and order. But the Democrats and the left always push this. Sanctuary city, you're safe here. If you're illegal immigrant, you immigrate here illegally, you're safe here. Come on in, But in reality, these policies are awful for communities. So we have to, same thing with this loan forgiveness. It sounds good on paper. I mean, people who are struggling or were struggling and weren't able to pay their loan back now can, don't have to worry about paying it. That sounds like a good thing, right? I mean, to me, it sounds like a good thing. But in reality, It's not forgiven. It's transferred, and it's transferred to everyone else to pay this back
during a recession.
Here, right? So again, these ideas that they throw to these voters and people who say, "Oh, this sounds like a good," it's really, in reality, in process, it's not. So, and listen, full disclosure, I have a student loan that I still owe. So I don't even know if I qualify. I don't even know all the ins and outs about it.
But you probably do. The income limit is like 125,000 or something.
150,000 or below.
Yeah, like you probably qualify for it. Yeah, I mean,
yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what all of that's going to be, but I mean, I'm one of the ones who had a student loan, and I took it out. And I'm going to be honest, I knew they were going to do a student loan forgiveness. I've been in deference, I've been in forbearance, I've been pushing it off, and I didn't really have the money to pay it, and I hadn't paid it. And this is what it is. A lot of people are like this. It's not good, but so.
That's why I agree
to have a give forgiveness. No,
and that's why I agree with Governor DeSantis when he by order this past 2 months ago, you must have financial literacy in high school to graduate.
Yeah, he did.
If we only had common sense, then we would have a working dollar. Mm-hmm. That's what I came from nothing from El Salvador. My parents said to me, when I was seeing the Sweet 16 and this and that and the other, this and the other, because I lived in an affluent neighborhood. That I can say that. But, my parents said there is no free lunch. There is no free lunch. My dad worked as a truck driver. My mom didn't graduate from high school, and they wanted better for this little girl who they decided to keep her birth name, Blanca. And, and I am better because I am financially more aware, because when you're aware, and by the way, the immigration, that takes advantage of the immigrants. I know more immigrants. They saved $10,000 to buy a house. They got tricked, gave it to somebody, and they didn't see that person ever again. I know somebody who walks right here on Highland, Patterson Park. His name is Angel. I met him one day. I said, ¿Qué pasó? What happened? He said, I worked for somebody. I fell off the ladder. They didn't have me at workers' comp. Guess what? They told me you can go get on the streets. Only 26 years old. So the abuse.
So you saying they're doing this because they're illegal immigrants? That's why.
Of course, because here is, if I can use you and abuse you, then those dollars might just be looking a little bit greener in my pocket. So it doesn't benefit, illegal immigration doesn't even benefit people that are here, coming here, or want to establish here, because they're going to get burnt. And the taxpayer, guess what? We're the ones going to be paying for it. We always pay for it. And when we pay for it and we don't hold these people accountable, then we're just it's like we're buying the shovel and we're just asking them, how deep you want me to dig the hole.
Yeah, you're right. Not only that, but if you think about it, because I have family members that immigrated from the Caribbean, and they came over here, became welders, some are linemen, worked for years, hard work, and they take taxes out of their check. But now, because they're not legal, they can't get their pensions. They have thousands of dollars sitting in these jobs, because welders get paid well, and they can't touch that money because they're not legal. So you have situations like that where they do this type of stuff. So it's a tough situation all over, but we do have to wrap up. We are at the end of our time. I want to give each of you, if we could, just maybe 20 seconds, quick final thoughts. Final thoughts on one of the topics that we've discussed, the one that really struck you the most. You want to give your final thought. I'll start with you, EJ, if you could, in about 20 seconds or less.
For the simple fact that we are a country where we can't afford to extend ourselves too far. You know, we have a crisis of shortages. We can't even feed babies. You know, gas shortages and all kind of shortages. So, what sense does it make to continue to take in people and trying to help them when we have people here that we need to help first? So, yeah, to me, a lot of these things don't make sense and seem to be the subjects to divide America. You know, I think that we are very fortunate to live in this great country. Instead of fighting among each other, we need to fight the foreign issues that are affecting all of us, regardless if your political affiliation. So that's my thought.
All right. I want to go to you, Colleen. One of the topics we've discussed tonight, which one struck you most, and what are your final thoughts on that? 20 seconds or less.
Probably the illegal immigration is probably what worries me the most. I really feel like it's just going to add a lot of a burden onto our financial system that's already taken on so much, and we just keep spending. And I think that there's a lot of chaos that's going to be ensuing in the next few years. So I just really hope that Dan Cox wins in November. Honestly, I really pray for Maryland. So,
all right, I want to go to you, Autumn. Which topic struck you the most tonight, and if you could provide just final thoughts on that topic, 20 seconds or less.
I agree about illegal immigration. I feel like that's one of our big issues right now, just because when I look at it, I'm looking at long term. Just as EJ has said, we do struggle taking care of our own. I could always put America first, and that means our citizens that we currently have and the ones that are being born here. And I just feel like we need to take care of our own first and get ourselves on track. And by on track, I don't mean clear out all debt. We've got to get in a place where we're doing much, much better. And we really are living up to the outside reputation that we have amongst other countries, that this is just a great place. I mean, people talk about the American dream. You can't really fulfill that without having the free market and just being able to have assistance as well for some people just to reach that next step. We can't take care of everyone.
All right. What are your final thoughts, Blanca, on one of the topics that struck you the most tonight?
For me, it's definitely the student loan. I call it transferring it to me to pay for you. I'm going to be honest. It is possible. It is possible. I was 30 years old when I paid off my student loan. I don't regret 1 minute of it. I was 50 years old when I paid off my home. It is completely paid for. And so I am a proud naturalized citizen that can tell people that, yes, you can be financially put together. You can volunteer now. I have a special needs son who needs constant care, 24/7, 15 with a disability and a mental capacity of a 9-year-old. And I work 3 jobs to get it done. And I can't say, that I am the model, but I believe that when people are more financially, have a more solid financial backing, at least you have some options. And I think that's why people come, then they get abused, and then they get into a system that turns around that they end up hating, because you can't serve 2 masters. You really can't. You can't serve the one that's rescuing you while it's stabbing you in the back.
All right. All right. I'll say my topic would be the AR-15s. I'll tell you personally that I am not a gun enthusiast. I used to go to the range a lot, but I haven't been in years. I just recently started going again, and I'm shaky. I'm telling you, when I'm at the range and I hear all these guns shooting off, I am shaky. I do need to go more often, but the amount of violence that we are seeing in schools is unconscionable. And children need to be protected. They need to be protected. And there are a multitude of issues surrounding this topic as far as school violence is concerned, mental health issues. Of course, we talk about family home life. I am a woman of faith, so that's top issue to me. We are a secular. We're becoming more and more of a secular society, and faith is out the window, and that's probably the biggest issue to all of this that we have going on. But this is what's going on. So what do we do about it? I believe we need to arm these resource officers, and if I could arm them with a cannon, I would, because we need to stop these psychos and evil people from coming into our schools and assaulting and killing and maligning our children. So that is one of the top. That topic really struck me tonight. This is from a person who was a Democrat all her life. I am not a gun enthusiast. I really don't know much about guns. I am starting to learn more. I don't like them, but this is the time that we're in, unfortunately. And to me, if I see an AR-15, a resource officer holding that at my son's school or any school, I'm looking them in the eye and saying, "Hooah, hooah." So that's all we have for you guys tonight. Again, thank you so much for joining us. Join the conversation, as I always say. Keep coming with the comments throughout the night. Again, we are at the end of our time. We have several announcements. We are having a party to celebrate the official launch of Metro Conservative Media. There will be food, drinks, music, dancing, live performances. I just visited the space yesterday. It is gorgeous. I mean, we are literally sitting on top of the city. So hopefully all of you can join us. It's a free event. This is to celebrate Metro Conservative Media and us really putting ourselves out there as a conservative resource in the community. So please join us. The Eventbrite link will be put in the comments. You can also go to our webpage and RSVP. Again, this is going to be a fun night, just fun to celebrate and to get together with friends and supporters. So please come out. Also, continue the conversation by checking us out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and subscribe. That way you get up-to-the-minute content when we post. As I've been saying all night, we are an independent media, and each time you subscribe, that does make our voice that much stronger. Check us out on our website again, www.metroconservativemedia.com. We look forward to seeing you next week. Until then, count your blessings and live a life of purpose. Good night.